Welcome to Apologetics and Prophecy, the official podcast of Calvary Solid Ground, a remnant church in Orangevale, California. I am Pastor Jed, and I will be your host as we bring you Bible studies and updates put through an apologetical and biblical lens to see just how close we are to the return of our Lord. Thank you for joining us today. Maranatha, everyone. So glad that you could join us for this Friday edition of Apologetics and Prophecy, where we're going to get into a prophecy update in just a minute. But I just want to remind you, if those of you that are listening or tuning in that might have missed our conference that we had back in June on the 28th, all of those teachings are available on our website and our app. That's really the best place to go because they are in their own folder, and all the lessons are individually loaded up there for your use and for sharing. And some of them have been the audio was adjusted on the Q&A so that you can hear some of the things that were cut off on the YouTube channel. But please go back and listen to some of these messages. I will tell you that Pastor Josh Schwartz gave one of the best messages I've ever heard on the future, God's future plan for Israel. And if you want to have a biblical lesson to teach you how you could share with others why we believe that God still has a plan for Israel, that is a great message to go back and share it with others. And so we're very grateful to have both Jan Markell's people and Don Perkins with us on June 28th. So please go ahead. And I know it's been a few weeks since we've done a prophecy update, but today's update is called Polycrisis is Here. Polycrisis. Now, this is something that's been talked about a lot, and we're going to get into these different polycrises that are happening, but we know that these things are expected to be happening in the tribulation period. So as we see the tribulation period get closer, should we see an uptick of these things in our life and in our culture and on a global scale? And we're going to answer that question in a minute, but just let's review some of the things that we're told are going to happen during the tribulation period. And in Luke chapter 21, verses 25 and 26, we are told, "And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear at the expectation of those things that are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken." If there was ever a polycrisis happening, that would be during the tribulation period. But we get another clue from Matthew 24 that says, "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." And many of you are prophecy students. You've been watching this prophecy update, many of our teachers, and we understand and know that birth pangs, the sorrows that's mentioned there, are dealing with contractions. But what happens when those contractions are so close together that they seem to be popping off everywhere? We would call that polycrisis. And of course, what's it say in 1 Thessalonians 5:3? When they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. The polycrises are coming. And we're reminded of that recently. Just this last week, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we're not going to talk about. Of course, we understand a lot has happened since the last time I've done a prophecy update, and many of these stories have been covered by my contemporaries. Many of you already know them. So we're going to try to weed through and just pick up some points of some of the stuff I thought were important that comes up to today. But Alex Newman reminded us last week that the coming polycrisis will shock the world in his Substack that he had on July 3rd. And it just says that globalists are speaking of a coming onslaught of crises to overwhelm the world. Naturally, global government will be the solution. Humanity can and must expose and resist the evil agenda. The deep state intends to overwhelm humanity with mass migration, more war, economic turmoil, civil unrest, pandemics, and war. This phenomena that the United Nations has been for is what the World Economic Forum calls the Polycrisis. And if you remember, before they brushed Klaus Schwab off to his little room somewhere to die in peace, I guess. But one of the last things he talked about was that the next pandemic would be polycrisis. And that was a whole theme of the World Economic Forum a couple of years back. Do you know they have their own website? They have their own website, Polycrisis, right here. It says multiple global crises are worsening one another to produce that what many policymakers, scholars, and commentators call a polycrisis. This website is a hub that helps this emerging community better understand and address the intersecting crises affecting humanity. And so they have their own website, and that's how, this is how, sure, but are we starting to see polycrises? We have to remember the way that I think that it's going to work. I used to fight forest fires with the CDF. I was on a fire crew. And in our fire training, we were learned one of the things that a hand crew has to be able to do is put out spot fires. And spot fires were the most dangerous thing because the wind would blow an ember over into a place that hasn't burned yet, and that spot fire would start off slowly. But when the wind starts to blow really bad and the spot fires pop up, they overwhelm the firefighters, and we have to pull back and then go around the fire. That's what causes the fire to grow. And I kind of see that as what we're seeing today. Little fires that are starting to burn all over the place that are soon about to burn out of control. And of course, we know that we just had the 12-day war with Iran that happened since the last time that I've done a prophecy update. Matter of fact, it just started. My last update was Israel at war, and then it's ended supposedly since then, but never really ended. The proxy war with Iran has been going on for 20 years between Israel and Iran. So it's nothing new, but the fact that the United States got involved, but something did happen towards the end. Before the United States went in there and B-2 bombed their nuclear facilities, the one thing that looked like a turning point that would have been dangerous, and we're still not quite sure, is this story that came up that still we don't have answers to. Why are Chinese cargo planes flying into Iran, and what are they carrying? This story is something that hasn't gone away. It says Russia has warned the United States not to assist Israel in its strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities or ballistic missile launchers, because if there's anything Vladimir Putin hates to see is military aggression crossing international borders, right? However, Russia has made it clear it's not willing to do much to help Iran beyond issue statements. Hey, how about those Russian-made air defenses deployed by Iran, huh? You can probably find better stuff on Temu, and it's because they didn't work, is what the joke is. Speaking of Chinese exports, there's a strange report of the Chinese sending something to Iran after the conflict began. A day after Israel attacked Iran on Friday, a cargo plane took off from China. The next day, a second plane departed from a coastal city. Then on Monday, yet another departed, this time from Shanghai. 3 flights in 3 days. Data showed that on each flight, the plane flew westward along northern China, crossing into Kazakhstan, then south to Uzbekistan, and then Turkmenistan, and then falling off the radar as it neared Iran. To add to the mystery, flight plans indicated a final destination of Luxembourg, but the aircraft appeared to have never flown near European skies. Aviation experts have noted that the type of plane used, Boeing 747 freighters, are commonly used for transporting military equipment and weapons and hired to fly government contract orders. So we don't know what China, but it's very interesting. They still don't know what happened to their uranium. So I think was uranium loaded on these planes and then materials dropped off? Because something that happened very interesting, we know what kind of missiles that Iran was using to attack Israel. But late in the game, right after all of this, it seemed like the day before the enforced ceasefire, we saw this, which is a newer weapon that was not used earlier by Iran. That is a hypersonic missile blast. Did you see how fast? It was like a strike of lightning. You can't defend against that. And they were able to stop many ballistic missiles in outer space, but these ones that go hypersonic, there's no stopping them. Where did they get this technology at? Could it be that China gave it to them, but the bombing stopped before they could get engaged? We don't know, but it's something to keep an eye on, and definitely could add to the crisis. If Iran had a bunch of those types of missiles and fired 100 of them at Israel, there's nothing Israel could do. They would be trapped. And then of course, we had the big meeting in NATO, and I thought this was funny, and just shows you how crazy. You know, we think during these, you think the world leaders would take some of this stuff that's going on seriously, but of course, you know, there was the whole thing that Trump got upset at Iran and Israel after that missile, and had, you know, said some expletives and made Israel turn their planes around. And that the next day was the NATO conference, and this was NATO chief defends daddy remark, as Trump says it was made affectionately. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has praised Donald Trump and clarified a remark in which he appeared to refer to the U.S. president as daddy. And notice something as we're watching this. We're talking about, you know, evil Luciferian, demonically inspired world leaders. And notice the logo as we go on this. It says NATO on the top, but what's it say underneath it? The NATO logo has NATO spelled one way on the top and then backwards underneath it. They're not hiding who they are anymore, and something to pay attention to. But you know, it's funny though. This is a funny video, so let's watch it.
I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
I think we have to join the others.
So he said that Daddy has to use strong language to break up the kids in the parking lot. And you know, we heard what he said and we know what he meant. And but it's funny how Donald Trump received it, you know.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Do you regard your NATO allies, though, as kind of like children, and they're obviously listening to you and they're spending more, and you're obviously appreciative of that, but do you hope that actually they're going to be able to defend themselves, defend Europe on their own?
I think they need help a little bit at the beginning, and I think they'll be able to, and I think they're going to remember this day. And this was a big day for NATO. You know, this was a very big day. They took it. One of the gentlemen said, you know what? We've been trying to raise money raise the rate for 30 years, he said, 20 years, from almost the beginning. And he's been there for a long time. He said, until you came along, it never happened. What you did is amazing. It's been sort of an amazing day.
So, you know, it's a funny thing, but it's like, you know, NATO, of course, has always been the United States. The United States has been NATO. I mean, let's get real and serious about it. But of course, Europe becoming more involved, spending more money, providing more arms, and becoming self-sufficient. There's a lot of news out lately about, you know, Europe building its own army, which might have some prophetic significance. We're not quite sure. But I just find it interesting that you know that Trump is affectionately called daddy, you know, and of course, you know, all you need is something to boost his ego a little more. But what's happening with NATO, what's happening in Ukraine, all these things are crises that are getting small fires that are getting ready to burn. They're not slowing down. But of course, we had the disaster in Texas, which was heartbreaking. But what are they saying? This is a local news site from that area where the floods happened. Climate change helped fuel heavy rains that caused hill country floods, experts say. of course, never let a good crisis go to waste. And it says this warming ocean temperatures and warmer air mean there's more water vapor in the atmosphere to fuel extreme downpours like those that struck Texas during the July 4th weekend. Heavy rains over the weekend that pushed the Guadalupe River in Texas Hill Country to its second highest height on record had by Tuesday resulted in more than 100 reported deaths, including 27 children and counselors from Camp Mystic. But as search and rescue teams and volunteers sweep the banks of the river for missing people, the number of confirmed deaths is expected to grow. Climate scientists said the torrential downpours on July 4th exemplify the devastating outcomes of weather intensified by a warming atmosphere. These disasters, they said, will become more frequent as people around the world continue to burn fossil fuels and heat the planet. This is not a one-off anymore, said Claudia Benitez Nelson, a climate scientist at the University of South Carolina. Extreme rainfall events are increasing across the U.S. as temperatures rise. But is that true? We've been watching, most of us know, it used to be that weather modification and chemtrails were a thing of conspiracy nuts only Alex Jones even touched. But is that the truth? Are we seeing these things happening and this being the fruit, and they're just using climate change as an excuse? Another crisis, Polycrisis that's created to go into the convergence of all of them to put us into fear and to scream for government control. This is an old news story that was shared recently that we have the link for, and that's a list of 100 U.S. patents related to weather modification, starting in 1891 all the way up till the present time. There's 100 different patents. There are more, but these are 100 listed that we know of. And of course, what about what about recently? We have this Facebook post that somebody posted on, this was part of the Trump agenda, the Making America Great 2025 agenda. And this person says, I hope Lee Zeldin, upcoming administrator of EPI, will halt all ongoing geoengineering activities, including weather modification, cloud seeding, and solar radiation management over our airspace. Almost daily, our skies are covered with chemicals through stratospheric aerosol injection, which aims to dim solar radiation. This process involves spraying substances like aluminum, barium, strontium salts, and various nanoparticles, including graphene oxide. The stated goal of SAI is to deflect solar rays to mitigate climate change, but this theory remains largely untested and potentially harmful. Evidence suggests that deflecting solar radiation may actually contribute to heating the upper troposphere rather than cooling it. The fallout from these operations poses severe risks to our environment and public health. Numerous studies have linked aluminum exposure to mental health issues and cognitive decline, with diseases such as Alzheimer's and breast cancer documented as a consequence of such exposure. And of course, what happened? Right after this, just yesterday, Lee Zeldin posted this. He is the EPA director. He has been confirmed. And this is what he posted on X. It says Americans have questions about geoengineering and contrails. They expect honesty and transparency from government when seeking answers. For years, people who asked questions in good faith were dismissed, even vilified by the media and their own government. This ends today. So is the truth of these things coming to pass? Excuse me. But something I was reminded of, something that's been happening in our area for many years that I had forgotten about, which, again, they say they're not spraying stuff in their skies. Well, I'm sorry. We have mosquito vector control locally that is called Fight the Bite in our area, where they're spraying poisonous chemicals. And there's a whole list of these poisonous chemicals that they spray into our air to poison us. And it says, as part of this plan, the district may administer ultra low volume treatments by using backpack foggers, hand sprayers, truck mounted foggers, or aircraft in and around areas where virus activity has been detected. Each fogging unit is calibrated to ensure the correct amount of product is applied to each treatment area. All products are registered with the California Environmental Protection Agency and are applied by trained and state-certified technicians. Adulticides are chemicals that quickly reduce adult mosquito population. Larvicides target mosquitoes developing in the water. That's going into our drinking water. That's going into the air that you and I breathe. And we're wondering why I have so many allergy problems, but I'm not allergic to any plants. And and we have ongoing headaches and other problems in our area. It's because they've been spraying stuff in the sky. So don't tell me they're not doing it. Here's routine aerial spraying for agriculture areas. The dates on this thing this is between July 10th. That's just Thursday evening, yesterday evening. They were spraying in Sacramento County areas with poisonous bug poison gas. That, don't tell me that it does not affect our health. So they are doing these things, and it's pretty just another fire burning in the Polycrisis is the geoengineering and the chemtrails and all of the stuff that they're doing, and they're blaming it, trying to get us into fear, along with the wars, along with this. But what about this? This is something that we need to deal with, and I thank Patrick Wood for bringing it up, and that is 12 important questions that all Americans should be asking about the shameful attempt to cover up the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. And so that's what most of the people that we campaigned, we were told by the Trump administration, the incoming people into these different offices, that we were told there was going to be transparency, that we were going to see all of these documents, they were going to make them available to the public, and now what are they doing? And just to be reminded of a few things before we look at a couple points from this article, is some of the things that they said. Let's look at what they said with their own mouth.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
Well, so you heard her say tens of thousands of videos with Epstein and children. And, we know from all of the stuff that we've seen, outside sources, books, and all these investigators and journalism that's been studying Epstein for years, that he had flight logs and people involved. We've seen his ugly island with the weird temple and sex stuff going on there. So to just say that and to come out and campaign on it and then say what just happened. This memo came out at the beginning of the week, and it was on late Sunday. It was dropped, and it was questionable to say the least. But saying that they're not going to pursue or put into the public these things because there was no viable evidence, and so when, of course, all of us, it's the most talked about thing online. When it's brought up and asked, this is what Trump had to say about it.
Sure. Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the native staff?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Wait a minute, President Trump. You do know that everybody has been asking about this. This has not gone away. That is a deflection. He is trying to deflect. But, but let's listen to her answer to how she answers those two questions of, one, did he ever work for the government? And two, where's that missing minute?
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Mr. President.
That's the old, remember in Star Wars, the old Jedi mind trick where, these aren't the droids you're looking for. That's not going to work for us. She seems to think that we're stupid and we're just willing to brush it under and take the wins that Trump has and forget about the things. She said a lot more than what she's admitting to say. Here's a O'Keefe Media video that gives us a little bit of what she did say.
Looking at these documents going, these aren't all the Epstein files. There were flight logs, there were names and victims' names. And we're going, where's the rest of the stuff? And that's what the FBI had turned over to us. And so a source said, whoa, all this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York. Yep. So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Cash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. And, we're going to go through it as fast as we can, but go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims of Epstein.
So that's her blaming the FBI. There were additional files. I didn't mean to embarrass the influencers. It's the FBI's fault, but I'm going to get them. Then you have Pam Bondi caught on tape by James O'Keefe. And as soon as it came out, like that he had this and was about to hit, he went to her for comment, obviously. She got on camera and affirmatively said it as though she meant to say it all along. It was like, it seemed to me to be a CYA. Like, I said nothing special to James O'Keefe. I'll say it right now on camera. And I happen to know that this caused a lot of consternation inside some of these national security socials where they didn't know what she was doing. Here is 10.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that.
Okay. So that piece of it is somewhat consistent with what they said in this statement, which is there's a lot of child sexual assault material online, but she left it open, like hundreds of victims of Epstein's or of others that Epstein has. Like, this is the kind of thing you need to be really specific about. And we were left with yet another question mark.
and many more question marks to go. And some of the questions, there was 12, but a couple that we need to, we just saw, and one of them was, why were Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell arrested and charged with operating an enormous sex trafficking ring that supposedly involved thousands of clients, if no such clients ever existed? If there's no list, and which we've seen redacted lists, this is joke. Two, why did U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi tell Fox News in February that Epstein's client list was sitting on my desk right now to review if no such client list ever existed? And she did say it. She said lists and flight logs and a whole truckload of evidence. Let's see that evidence. Now we're going to have to go through years of Freedom of Information Act, judges, just to be able to see at least a redacted version of the things that they're telling us that don't exist. It is a cover-up that stinks to high hell. And then number 4 was when Bondi claimed that Epstein flight logs would make you sick in March. What did she mean by that? And of course, we remember that we've seen this sort of blow off, nothing to see here. These aren't the drones you're looking for. When Trump first became president, there was a big thing going on in the news, and this is the answer they gave us.
And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy.
That is a lie. We know that's a cover-up because the FAA said they didn't know anything about it, that they weren't their drones. And so they come out and they specifically lie to you because they don't want you to know the truth. And of course, this meme of Maxwell herself says it all. If there are no clients, why am I in jail? That's the whole point. That's what she was convicted of for 20 years, for operating a ring with clients. The clients are guilty. They participated in sex with minor women. They need to go to jail. You can't just blow it off. These are sick individuals that have high power, big names in government and in world leaders, and they need to go to jail. They need to be convicted. And so, again, it's just one of those things that tells you how corrupt our government is. We voted for the things that we got, but we always get duped. And here's a really fast dupe that we got. Everybody thought that RFK Jr. was going to come in and save the day. What about this story? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. agrees AI should fast-track drug approvals amid vaccine claims. Oh, boy. I don't want AI having anything to do with my health. It says RFK Jr. believes FDA will allow AI to approve drugs very quickly, just like Operation Warp Speed, right? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. caused a commotion when he recently appeared on Tucker Carlson's podcast. His views varied from incendiary vaccine assertions to ambitious proposals for the adoptions of artificial intelligence by the U.S. healthcare sector, inspiring worries among political and medical communities. Based on the interview, he believes AI will help the FDA approve drugs much faster. Remember, Stargate was going to be the AI that will solve cancer through all these weird genetically modified drugs. Well, what did we have yesterday? This is the news that came out. Moderna gets full U.S. approval for COVID shot in at-risk children 6 months and older. That wasn't what we campaigned on. That's not what we were promised when FK, Make America Healthy again was supposed to get rid of those things. But it looks like that the pharmaceutical companies are still having their way. And then, of course, there was this.
Diet, about their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again, and we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Following up.
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't want a wearable. You don't see me wearing a watch. You don't see me with a wearable, and I'm going to keep it that way. My smartphone is as far as I'm going. I ain't going any farther than that. So they can keep their wearables, they can keep their agenda, and keep it to themselves. And of course, there was the big, beautiful bill passed since the last time we did an update. Trump's BBB, just passed by Senate, will massively expand the digital biometric surveillance state for years to come. Hidden in this bill, of course, was, he was voted in to clean up the immigration problem. And so, but one of the tools that he is using to do that is they're using technology and AI to round up violent criminals and send them off. And this bill put that into effect. It says here that Trump's BBB, just passed by Senate, will massively expand the digital biometric surveillance state for years. Bill allocates billions for digital tracking systems nationwide, mostly under the guise of border security. All major state and federal highways will be monitored 24/7 in real time. The website Biometric Update, which reports on all things digital and biometric, posted an article on June 30th that points out how President Trump's BBB will expand the digital surveillance state exponentially and place the U.S. on an irreversible course towards a biometric slave state which tracks the movement of everyone everywhere. And who did they enlist for this? But none other than this. Army recruits officers from Meta, OpenAI, and Planetaire to serve in new detachment. This new detachment. Executives from the high-tech firms Meta, OpenAI, and Planetaire are joining the Army Reserve at the rank of lieutenant colonel to serve in, guess what? Detachment 201. Now, where we've heard 201 before? That's right. Before the last pandemic, before the pandemic of Polycrisis. So you see all this stuff, these fires are burning all over. A new Executive Innovation Corps, the service announced Friday. On Friday, the service is set to swear in Meta's Chief Technology Officer, Andrew Bosworth, OpenAI's Chief Product Officer, Kevin Weil, Planetaire's CTO, Shalem Shankar, and Bob McGrew as an advisor at Thinking Machines Lab, who was previously OpenAI's Chief Research Officer. Planetaire is a major provider of software tools for the DoD, including the Maven Smart System, and is also developing hardware such as the Army's AI-enabled Titan vehicle. These are all the softwares that's being used by the ICE officers to track and to find all of these illegal aliens that are set to be deported. Department 201 is an effort to recruit senior tech executives to serve part-time in the Army Reserve as senior observers, and in this role, they will work on targeted projects to help guide rapid and scalable tech solutions to complex problems by bringing private sector know-how to uniform. Department 201 is supercharging efforts like the Army's Transformation Initiative, which aims to take the force leaner, smarter, and more lethal, the service stated Friday in a press release. And of course, here's a picture of them being sworn in as lieutenant colonels, which they've never served in the military. They now have a officer role in the military, and gives them clearance. And just so that we remember exactly who Planetaire is, here's a video to remind us.
It's 2025. We're all kind of used to government surveillance. The idea that we're all being watched all the time and don't own our own personal data has become normalized. We're also used to the military spending vast amounts of our money on just a few giant defense contractors. But one tech company wants to change both of those things
and become the ultimate military contractor and the ultimate arbiter of all of our data.
Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Check out Palantir shares surging 22% after the company cited a boom in demand for its AI software from the U.S. government.
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am.
No, I'm not enjoying it at all. Some crazy guy with a crazy hairdo and a white T-shirt in control of all of our data and all of our lives, working with the military. Man, this is a fire that is not going to be put out, and it's only going to get hotter as the polycrises continue to grow. What about this next story? This next story here. Oops, we got it going on here. I got it going on. New mind-reading AI predicts what humans will do next, and it's shockingly accurate. We also know that Grok 4 just came out just a few days after they had to shut one version down for all its it was telling people that Hitler was a great guy and all, it was saying all kinds of crazy stuff. Now they're reducing Grok 4, which is like it's more human than human, is what Elon Musk says. And then what about this one? Lab-grown sperm and eggs just a few years away, scientists say. You don't tell me there isn't polycrisis going on. This stuff is happening so fast we cannot keep up with it. Then what about what was happening in Israel? Right now, Benjamin Netanyahu is hanging around Washington, D.C. making deals. And what was one of the deals that they made? Was this one. U.S. and Israel pledged to work together to unleash AI innovation with new memorandum of understanding. And here they are signing all their AI. And of course, who's all there? And this is not going away, you guys. This is not going away. And so we see it. And then what about, we had the drone thing that they blew off, but is it gone away? No, it hasn't. Just recently, this article on July 7th in Fox News, over 60 UFO sightings report whizzing around state in first half of 2025, National Tracking Group says. This article says that NUFORC documents 66 unexplained aerial phenomenon sightings across the state in the first half of 2025. With 66 districts instances logged between January and late June, the state has had reports of an array of mysterious aerial objects ranging from glowing orbs, silent triangles, and fast-moving disks and shape-shifting lights. We still haven't got an answer for that. Still continuing to happen, and that's only going to cause more fear to grow, and we know. But one of the things that we want to end with today and is really telling us that we are living in the last of the last days, and this is huge news, you guys, and that is this one. This is biblical red heifer ritual comes to life and rehearsal ceremony. It says a red heifer raised in Israel was disqualified for sacrifice after 2 black hairs were found on its body. It was used in a practice burning ceremony for priests. You want to see what that looked like? Here you go. There it is on a makeshift altar. It isn't coming. It's actually happening. And so this is a 5-minute video that I found that is just great. It really gives you what's going on with the red heifers and how it's a really important prophetic sign.
So this one qualifies as to be the first sacrifice of a rebuilt temple.
Yes, I take it. Yes.
After years of waiting, a perfect red heifer has finally been selected. A perfect heifer without a single blemish. Now, the ceremony of the red heifer is prepared by Jewish priests or Kohanim to burn the red heifer. The ashes from this ceremony were once used to help people become spiritually clean and prepared to enter holy spaces. Israel today witnessed the long-anticipated red heifer purification ceremony, drawing huge spectators, religious pilgrims, and international media.
הרב יואל שוורץ, ראש ישיבת בר ירושלים, אב בית דין בסנהדרין וראש בית דין לבני נוח, הרב ישראל אריאל, יושב ראש מכון המקדש.
Rabbi Azaria Ariel stated in an interview that many news outlets have reported all the red heifers as disqualified, which is not entirely accurate. A single white hair may disqualify a heifer, but we currently have 5 heifers under consideration. In 2023, 1 red heifer was disqualified. Then in 2024, 2 more were disqualified, leaving us with 2 remaining. Just a month ago, one of them was selected as the perfect heifer. But we've learned a valuable lesson. Even a perfect heifer can grow a white hair and become disqualified. At the same time, a previously disqualified heifer may lose that white hair, potentially making it kosher again. That's why the selection process must be handled with great care before any are chosen for sacrifice. But the hope is there, as we still have time before the sacrifice. Right now, everything has been in place. We just need government permission, and then the first cornerstone will take place.
It's a purpose of Beis HaMikdash. That's why we decided to do this kind of style. We made it a cornerstone. It has 2 sides of a finished nice style. It can be the first stone for the Binyan Beis HaMikdash Be'ezrat Hashem.
This man is not building the cornerstone alone. Former Knesset member Moshe Feiglin was filmed with the man near the town of Eli carving stones intended for the future Third Temple. With a hammer and chisel, Feiglin said a sincere prayer. He asked that just like the stones are shaped to honor God, people too would be shaped to live together in unity and stay faithful so that we can rebuild the Third Temple. Moshe Feiglin is very committed in building the Third Temple. He wants to restore Jewish sovereignty over the Temple Mount and rebuilding the temple as a central pillar of Jewish identity. In one video, he was saying that if he were the Prime Minister of Israel, he would build the Third Temple right away. From his statement, we can learn that the government has a vital role in rebuilding the temple.
Am Yisrael Chai.
With political tension rising and pressure from religious groups growing, Prime Minister Netanyahu starts feeling pushed to strengthen Israel's national identity. At a key meeting with ultra-Orthodox leaders and Temple Mount activists, he's shown data that many of his supporters connect deeply with prophetic ideas and want ancient traditions to return. Netanyahu begins to see the idea of rebuilding the Third Temple not just as a religious dream, but as something that could unite the nation. Right now, many Jews believe they are living in a historic moment. There is growing support for rebuilding the Third Temple, with both Jewish communities and evangelical Christians praying for it to happen soon.
There's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible.
Groups like the Temple Institute and the Temple Mount Faithful have worked tirelessly to prepare for its construction. Some believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu quietly supports rabbis who are pushing for the temple.
That Netanyahu has actually privately been funding some of the push through the rabbis around this conversation of building a third temple.
And with Donald Trump back in office, many feel the path to the Third Temple is wide open, as he has promised strong support for Israel.
President Trump is advancing a prophetic process that will usher in, when the time comes, the rebuilding of the Third Temple.
That, my friends, is extremely prophetically significant. And you have to understand, the whole Abraham Accords and everything that's being talked about with Saudi Arabia, which was happening before October 7th, is still on the table. And that is who has control of the Temple Mount. And if it was given over to Saudi Arabia, would they allow them to at least lay the cornerstone that you saw them building? Because they are preparing. Israel's at a place right now where they feel like they have nothing to lose. They don't really care what the Islam and Muslims have to say about what they want to do. So much so that right now, just this last week, they are installing signs all over Israel pointing to the temple in Jerusalem. These are street signs put up by the government that are saying they are preparing to build the temple. This is going to happen. You know, this is something extremely prophetically significant and cannot be ignored, because we know that in order for the 70th week to happen, there has to be a temple in Jerusalem. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27 tells us, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out upon the desolate. That he will bring an end to sacrifice. That means sacrifice has to be going in the middle of the 70th week. Revelation chapter 11 tells us during the tribulation period, verses 1 through 3, then I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there, but leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. And I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. So we see there has to be a temple during the tribulation period at the beginning that John is told to go and measure. And so it has to be there. And so we're even told by Jesus in Matthew 24, verses 15, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, which is the rebuilt temple, whoever reads, let him understand. And then to apply all of this that we see coming, therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour that you do not expect. All these things are converging. They are a polycrisis of events that are coming, that are fires that are burning, that are only going to get more intense. That means that as we see these things converging, the contractions are no longer separated by a pause of time. As the globalists go and begin all of these self-made crises to bring about enough fear in the world to give up our freedoms and give it over to this totalitarian state that will be taken over by the Antichrist, we know that that means that our redemption is even closer. We know that that day and hour of Jesus returning for his church is very much at the doors. We see the church age declining and the age of Israel, that 70th week, starting to begin. They're eclipsed across each other, and we can see it happening in our lifetime. That means the end of the church age is at hand. At any moment, Jesus could come and rescue us and get us out of here. We need to be looking up and understanding that our redemption draws near. We need to understand these things are not going away. They are going to start burning more and more intense, and we need to be ready and prepared for an evacuation that is coming, that's going to set the world off guard and set a crisis and chaos that will not end until the second coming of Christ at the end of the 70th week. So what does that mean? That means you and I need to be prepared, first of all, to make sure that we are found in Christ. If you are listening to this and you have never placed your faith and trust in Christ, you've been playing around, playing the fence, time is now to get serious. You need to put your faith and trust in Christ. He died for your sins and rose again from the dead. He offers you the free gift of salvation. He offers you the ability to be a child of God and to be rescued from that time that is coming, that 70th week. But you need to be in Christ. You need to get saved. Don't put it off any longer. And for the rest of us, maybe we've been playing around with these, thinking that we have another day. You have to understand there needs to be an urgency. You need to understand that Jesus is at the doors. He's coming again. What is it that you need to do for the Lord? What is it that you need to have happen in your life to make yourself usable for God in these last moments, in these last hours and final seconds of human history? Make yourself available for the Lord to be used. Look for opportunities to share the gospel, because you don't want anyone to be left behind for what's coming. And so we need to understand these are polycrises. They're here, and I don't think they're going away. I think they're only going to grow more intense as we go farther in to that day that's coming. We know it's coming. We can see it coming. It is plain as day. I can't even keep up with the stories. There were so many that I left out that are just flooding my inbox that it's just insane. So continue to look up and know that your redemption draws near. We're going to try to keep you as informed as possible. So keep tuning in, keep watching these updates, and continue to share them with others. We thank you for tuning in today. God bless you, and Maranatha. If you have been blessed by this podcast, please subscribe and share to help get the word out in these last days. If you'd like more information or to contact us, please go to calvarysolidground.com. God bless you, and see you next time on Apologetics and Prophecy.